Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching The Wire Wrap. I'm Shravasti Dasgupta and joining me today is Sanjay K. Jha. He's a senior journalist, and Ajoy Ashirwad. He's political editor at The Wire. Let's start off today with the Supreme Court's order that's just come a little bit earlier, in which it has refused to interfere in the middle of the election process and adjourned an application seeking absolute numbers of voter turnout, as well as an application that sought to upload the Form 17C that records votes polled on its website. Now, the Supreme Court has said that it's taking a hands-off approach in the middle of elections and said that it will revisit the matter after vacations, which is likely to be after June 4th when the elections will end. Now, this is of course coming just 2 days after the Election Commission in an affidavit told the Supreme Court that it has no legal mandate to upload voter turnout, absolute number of voter turnout on its website. This is of course coming on the back of a lot of criticism that the poll body has been receiving for not uploading these absolute numbers and only uploading the voter turnout percentages on its website as well as its app. Now, The Wire has reported that the EC's handbook for the returning officer clearly states that at the end of polling, as soon as the presiding officer presses the close button, the EVM's control unit will display the total number of votes polled. Now, this figure is to be immediately noted according to the rules. However, these figures are not available at the moment. Sanjay, I want to ask you, how do you see this whole issue? Why are the voter turnout absolute numbers not being uploaded, and what is this cagey approach that we are seeing from the Election Commission?
See, first I'll tell you this verdict about verdict of the Supreme Court. It is irrelevant at this late stage. Even if the Supreme Court had intervened, it will make no material difference to the electoral process. I don't think that any sensible person was waiting for a Supreme Court intervention at this stage. The question is not Supreme Court's intervention. Question is not also about the uploading of data. Question is about the Election Commission's credibility. That is what is at stake. Election Commission is a constitutional authority. It's not a business house. If it says that it does not have legal mandate to upload the data, what does it mean? It is your duty to maximize the transparency. You have to upload the data. All these things have to be given. What is Form 17C? The data is already public. And if somebody, and it is mandated by law that anybody, any citizen can demand the data. And then the Supreme Court says it is not mandated. Whatever has to be done to enhance the credibility of the electoral process, you must do it. What deepens the suspicion is this, the attitude of the Election Commission. It refuses to act against the Prime Minister for very, very blatant and serious violations. It refuses to, and for the last several elections they have done it. It refuses to act against the Home Minister as if these two persons are untouchable. Why a common citizen, somebody sitting in the market, why is suspicious of the EVMs? It is not a question of who is demanding. In democracy, you have to respond to the popular will. What the Election Commission, the way Election Commission has been behaving is the root cause of the problem.
Ajoy, I want to get you in on this. The EC in its affidavit said that the nature or the data that it uploads on its voter turnout app as well as the website, it's voluntary in nature. But we have seen that absolute numbers were being uploaded and press conferences were held in previous elections. So what does this mean? Is it actually voluntary in nature? Or what does this really signify?
See, Shravasti, I entirely agree with Sanjay ji. Why are we asking for absolute numbers? We must understand that. Because until 2019, the EC has been very consistent in giving the absolute numbers so that people could also kind of cross-check whether the percentages are right. But right now what has happened is the EC has just given the percentages and we don't know anything, and there's complete lack of transparency in the way these percentages have been calculated. So, and the kind of the suspicions among critics, among common people has only grown because in the first two phases, if you see the tentative figures in the voter turnout app by the EC was 60%, and after 4 days we get a percentage of 66%, which amounts to, as Andy Mukherjee in Bloomberg wrote, is that this 6% increase is something like really big, which amounts to kind of 10 million more voters from 60 to 60 and across all the constituencies. So, if that has the potential to substantially change the outcome of the elections. So, this is what worries many of us, that why can't the EC, and ask this question, why can't the EC kind of become more transparent, especially when there's so many suspicions and so many questions are being raised. And the thing is that until 2019, EC used to give, and I'm completely okay that there can be like some difference between tentative figures which come of voters turnout at around 5 p.m. or 8 p.m. and because there's remoteness of many polling booths, but the maximum that we have seen between the tentative figures and the final figures has been always around 3.5% until 2019. But 2024, we are seeing a gap of almost 6 percentage points between the tentative figures and the final figures. We are discussing about the court case. So frankly, Shravasti, like the whole problem is around that for every tenet of democracy, people have absolutely no way to kind of move autonomous institutions, constitutional authorities like election commission, because they have been completely irresponsive, and for every small thing we have to knock the doors of Supreme Courts and the judiciary. What judiciary has done may be kind of legally correct, but it's the duty, as Sanjay ji said, of a constitutional body like election to kind of be responsive towards the concerns of the citizens. For everywhere I went in my field trips, reporting trips, people are talking about whether EVMs are malfunctioning, whether EVMs are true to our votes or not, and this may or may not be true. That depends on a lot of things and depends on where you are coming from. But it's, as a constitutional body, the EC has the duty to kind of kind of address these concerns. It could have done a fake. It could have done a workshop where it could have inspired confidence among citizens to show that EVMs are not malfunctioning. It did not even care to do that. And secondly, the election commission, the way it has been completely absent in the way many leaders, including the Prime Minister, have given polarizing speeches, and it has kind of rather resorted to kind of make a false equivalence between xenophobic communal remarks of the Prime Minister and other BJP leaders, and with and Congress's Congress's remarks, Congress leaders' remarks on questioning the relevance of Agniveer or some policy decisions that the BJP has taken. These are two separate things. But how does questioning Agniveer, for example, as Chidambaram said recently, or it's a policy decision by the government, why can't the opposition question it? That's a question that I will ask as a journalist. But as a journalist, I also know that what Prime Minister said in Banswara and in other places about Muslims, about minorities, and very pejorative and very derogatory terms, that is a clear violation of, it's kind of visible to the naked eye.
So, because Ajoy is talking about it, let's just tell our viewers a little bit about the fact that the Election Commission 2 days ago issued notices to the BJP as well as to the Congress, to its party presidents, that is to JP Nadda and Mallikarjun Kharge respectively. And what Ajoy was just talking about is the fact that in its notice to the BJP, the Election Commission, without naming Prime Minister Narendra Modi, called its star campaigner's speech, star campaigner in singular, not in plural. So, it is making it quite obvious obvious who it's talking about, but still not naming Prime Minister Modi, and said that the star campaigner had violated the model code of conduct, and this was in reference to the Congress's complaint on Modi's speech in Banswara in Rajasthan, where he called Muslims infiltrators and those who produce more children. And the EC said that without naming Modi, that directed Nadda to ask all his star campaigners to refrain from any campaigning methods and utterances along religious and communal lines. Now, while this has come quite late, the speech was made on April 21st. This notice has come over a month later on 22nd May. It has also issued a simultaneous notice to the Congress, to its president Mallikarjun Kharge, in which it has said that its leaders should not spread fear about the constitution and should not talk about the Agniveer scheme. So Sanjay, as Ajoy was just mentioning, this false equivalence that is being drawn by the Election Commission when it is being asked to address concerns of model code violations in terms of using xenophobia against Muslims, but it is equating with policy decisions. How must one see this?
See, all of a sudden we are dealing with a very unique crisis. I am wondering what is a greater problem with the Election Commission, bias or incompetence? They do not even understand the fundamentals of constitutional scheme. They are saying that no star campaigner will use language which is not in consonance with the model code of conduct. Now, this is not the job of the Election Commission. Did the Congress go to a Baba and cry that Babaji, Prime Minister is speaking this language? Then Baba says, no, no, don't speak this language, talk about social harmony, talk about peaceful coexistence. No. They went to a constitutional authority. If there is a crime, there has to be a punishment. You don't have to sermonize it. Even a traffic constable knows how to implement a law. Why top bureaucrats are picked up to become chief election commissioners and election commissioners? Because they should understand both politics and law. Here they are saying, as Ajay was talking about false equivalence. See, there are two things. One is politics, one is electoral tricks, electoral strategies. They are saying that don't talk about constitution being in crisis, under threat. That has been the politics of the Congress and the opposition party. They have done it for the last 10 years. And suddenly you say that don't talk about it. And what is threat to constitution? If the Election Commission is not functioning properly, that is a threat to constitution. There are tangible evidence to analyze whether there is threat to constitution or not. What about the autonomy of institutions? What about the media? What about the misuse of institutions, agencies, central agencies? So that has been the politics of the opposition, that constitution is under threat. And suddenly Election Commission says that you are not going to talk about it. And why? Because you are creating anarchic situation in the country. Forget about constitution and Agniveer. If political parties do not talk about Agniveer, they should shut shop and start business. They went to the extent of saying that the BJP complained that you divide societies on the question of economic inequality. Now, a political party which does not talk about economic inequality should be disqualified, do not have the right to do politics in India. In a poor country like India, people are suffering from wretched poverty, and BJP is complaining against the Congress talking about economic inequality. What should they talk about? They should talk about circus.
And also, Ajay,
no, I want to say certain things more. So, the bias of the Election Commission is bad enough. The incompetence has come as a additional problem to create new kind of worries. If the Election Commission thinks that the Congress talking about threat to constitution and BJP talking about brazen communalism is equal, then they do not have the right to sit in the commission. Now, what is Rahul Gandhi is doing? Rahul Gandhi, they are saying that Rahul Gandhi is creating caste enmity. Rahul Gandhi is creating hope. He is talking about justice, he is talking about empowerment. He is saying that these kind of castes, they have not been, they have not got justice. What Narendra Modi is doing? Narendra Modi is deepening the anxieties in the society. He is talking about Mangal Sutra being snatched. You know, this is not for the first time world is dealing with tyranny. Unfortunately, right now we are dealing with tyranny of nonsense. We do not know how to deal with tyranny of nonsense. मंगल सूत्र छीन लेगा, भैंस खोल लेगा, नल का टोटी निकाल करके चला जाएगा, and the election commission sadly reflects the same sentiment.
The fact that the election commission also speaks about the Congress's criticism of the Agniveer scheme, and interestingly the election commission says that the MCC, which is the Model Code of Conduct, has a specific prohibition against the use of armed forces for campaigning purposes. Now in the 2019 elections, we saw the BJP brazenly using the Pulwama attack in its campaigning. So do you see that a complete disparity in the election, though this is a different commission in comparison to 2019, but completely different set of rules?
Yeah, a completely selective set of rules for sure. But talking about Agniveer is, even if you're criticizing it or kind of accepting it as a good move, it's not about talking regarding the armed forces or what. That is what my worry is, that the kind of reason that the election commission gave, that no political party has the right to drag armed forces into the elections. But talking about Agniveer, which is a very pertinent topic amongst youth on the ground, you go to Uttar Pradesh, you go to Bihar, and every village people talk about Agniveer scheme as a very temporary. These are villages where recruitment for armed forces and different paramilitary forces have been traditionally very high. Even from the age of 15, young boys run almost 15 kilometers every day to qualify for these exams. And when you have a policy like Agniveer, where the government has promised you only 4 years of work and without any pensions and without any retirement benefits, people are anxious about it. It's the job of the opposition to talk about it. It's not dragging armed forces. But Election Commission has definitely played mischief by giving these kind of reasons. And look at today's order also, where Election Commission is talking about that giving absolute numbers will create a lot of chaos. I am still at a loss to understand how giving absolute numbers will create confusion, to create chaos in society or confusion among voters. The fundamental thing is the loss of credibility of the election commission. We have all known how we have had such brilliant election commissioners like you can call T.N. Session, S.Y. Qureshi, and there have been so many, N. Gopalaswamy, who have been equally kind of who saw to it that they are not seen as partisan. But here our election commissioners over the last 10 years or so have been really lax with the government's excesses and very brutal towards the opposition. You can see the selectiveness of the election commission right in front. Even if you have no information, you know, and this idea that election commission is not credible and it favors the government has taken deep roots in India, and that's a cause of worry, because if India has to remain the mother of democracy and it's the largest democratic exercise, and if these kind of questions come up, it questions the basic tenets of Indian democracy, and that is why we all need to kind of sit up and look at it and give some kind of pressure civil society groups to talk about these things. And for everything we have to go to the court, as I said, because none of these institutions are taking responsibility to be seen as non-partisan.
What Ajay was saying, election commissioners should be able to understand that schemes like Agniveer is not about defense forces. It's not that we are attacking defense forces. It is about the nature of livelihood in this country. It is about what kind of armed forces we want. It is the very fundamental concepts of governance, that you retire somebody after 4 years. Now, if this is not debated, what should we debate? And it's very sad, it's tragic that the election commissioners do not understand the fundamentals of governance and policy making. They are linking it with, I don't say it is linking, they are totally depending on the analysis done by the ruling party.
Of course, as we have been saying that any reporting that we are doing from the ground, particularly in UP and Bihar, we have found that voters everywhere, even supporters of the BJP, are not satisfied with the Agniveer scheme, because it was in these villages where young people join the armed forces in huge numbers. They have been hit very hard by this, and they are raising this concern that what will we do after 4 years? This is a legitimate concern that voters are raising, and this should figure in the campaign process. But if the election commission is having some difficulty in deciding these matters, someone who's not having any such difficulty in declaring himself as sent by God is Prime Minister Modi, because in an interview he has said, while he has earlier also said that he has been chosen by God, for instance during the Ram Temple consecration ceremony, he said that he has been chosen by God to do this speech. But in an interview recently he said that when my mother was alive, I used to believe that I was born biologically. This he said in Hindi, and I'm just giving you the English translation of this. After she passed away, upon reflecting upon my experiences, I am convinced that God has sent me, and this energy could not be from my biological body, but was bestowed upon me by God. Now, Sanjay, you have written a very incisive piece on this for The Wire. How do you see this divine embodiment by the Prime Minister as he seeks a third term?
See, Gandhi didn't say that I am sent by the God. Bhagat Singh didn't say that. Buddha didn't say that. I think Ram also would not have said that I have been sent by the God. Krishna would not have said that I have been sent by the God, or I am the God. This is a stunning advertisement of crisis of confidence by Narendra Modi. This would compel the citizens to think about the mental condition of the Prime Minister of India. There should be a debate about the philosophical complexities of the Prime Minister of India. What is he saying? He is saying that the God has sent me to execute certain things which he wanted to do it. All the good things. What about the bad things? When people were dying for oxygen, was it God's will? What was Narendra Modi doing then? What was the divine message? Just to vanish? Or to ask people to bang thalis? So, as I told you that we are dealing with tyranny of nonsense. Narendra Modi, why he is doing this? And why he is doing this at the end of second term? Because he is scared. He is scared that he has fooled the people. Now the time has come for accountability. He may not respect the principle of accountability, but the people are now itching to demand accountability from the Prime Minister, and that's why he is scared. He is telling the people that I have divine power, don't question me. If I failed, accept my failure, because that was the God's will. It's strange. But we have to, there are two things. The poor is crying for the bread, poor is crying for the gas cylinder, poor is crying for the medicine, and the Prime Minister is crying for divinity. What is this election all about? To solve the problem of the poor or to celebrate the divinity of the Prime Minister? What is this election all about? Is the Prime Minister trying to hijack the entire discourse to a farcical plane? I think the citizens should decide for themselves.
Ajay, also as we were discussing earlier, that this embodiment, he projecting himself as an embodiment of God, we have seen multiple instances of that, but some leaders, BJP leaders have also compared him to God. But recently BJP Sambit Patra has got into a spot of trouble with the election commission after he stated that Lord Jagannath was a disciple of Modi. And now he has since of course said that he will sit on an upvas for 3 days and all that. But how do you see this projection of Modi as God, not just by the Prime Minister but by leaders of the BJP as well? There's a definite attempt by the BJP to project their leader as God himself.
As God. I see a political logic to it, apart from what Sanjay ji has said. It's a tyranny of nonsense, but I also see a political logic to why Narendra Modi should say whatever he said at the cusp of Indian elections right now, after the around the fifth phase, when only two phases are left. He is at one level. Around 3 months ago, there was a widespread perception that that Narendra Modi is going to get his third term, and also the BJP's campaign on the ground was more than Ram Mandir, more than the larger talk of why BJP should kind of be elected for the third term, BJP's campaign. The actual campaign on the ground has always been, the BJP workers' campaign has been, there's no other alternative, the Tina factor. And who else? And creating this whole psychological operation that who else, Modi ji to aayenge hi, to kaun aayega? So this central figure of Modi in the BJP campaign, which kind of overpowers every other message that BJP has attempted to give, be it Viksit Bharat, be it Ram Mandir, or or third largest economy, making India third largest economy in his third term. All of these messages have been overpowered by Modi being the central icon of BJP's campaign. The last two terms showed that people voted. The last two general elections showed that people voted for Modi. A majority of India's Indians voted for Modi, which kind of turned the presidential elections into a presidential, parliamentary elections into a presidential style of elections. It began to be fought like that, and now when BJP is kind of battling huge anti-incumbency on ground on issues like unemployment, poverty, or price rise, or many other things, and as with the anger of which is mostly directed to the two-time BJP MPs or three-time BJP MPs, or like the anger everywhere you go, you see that the anger against sitting BJP MPs is huge, and this may have some, I feel, that has made the BJP sit up and kind of project Modi as the central figure, so that even if you say that this is not a vote for this useless MP or other MP that did not work for your constituency, this is a vote for Modi, trying to kind of pivot the whole election from local concerns to back to one personality, that okay, Modi has constantly functioned as a demagogue, where he kind of engineers anxiety in the majority community right from 2002, where he kind of stokes fear, stokes kind of insecurity amongst the Hindus, and kind of polarizes the whole thing. And this is what this whole divinity kind of thing. Okay, you may be angry with a lot of things, but this is a vote for me, and I am the divine avatar who has been chosen, not anyone else, to kind of do away with your fears, anxieties, which you yourself perpetuated. So this is the trick that he is playing, and it reflects BJP's lack of confidence, as Sanjay ji said, and they are not, as they had thought, that Ram Mandir or these Viksit Bharat messages will kind of dominate the electoral discourse. We all have seen that it is not, and there are people are now, even in the absence in constituencies where the opposition candidates are not strong, the level of anti-incumbency on issues of, on material issues of bread and butter issues have become really stronger by the day. And from the first phase to the fifth phase, that message, that anti-incumbency sentiment has only grown, and that the first phase where the BJP probably did not do that well, that message has actually transferred to every subsequent phase, and by the end of, like, as we are on this, tomorrow is the sixth phase, and we could see it much more visibly, which we could not see before the first phase. So this divine thing is a tactical kind of move by Modi to kind of bring the whole what do you say, bring the whole attention of the voters to himself, and because he still has, like, he has still tried to kind of project himself as incorruptible, and he realizes that people are blaming the BJP MPs more than him.
But Ajay, drawing this divine or spiritual angle is not a legitimate political tact.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
It's a very dangerous
not.
thing.
But
Modi has always been the
but
central
over the-
figure in BJP politics
But all of
for the
these
last 10
things I
years.
feel that have
He
been
is there.
normalized. Yeah.
He's sitting as the Sanisur. He's the central figure. What was the need to anoint himself as a god? I see this. The only possibility is that the fear of Modi, fear of losing power, has gone beyond his comprehension. It has rattled him. And that's why he's telling that now I'm not the human being which you are dealing with. After the second term, please treat me differently. I see this as a manifestation of fear.
As one of this the stand-up comics and political commentator Sanjay Rajora wrote recently that Modi is not biological, but he may definitely be diabolical. So this is what.
But the fact
said.
is that when we see on the ground, people have managed to deflect their anger against the local MP and said that what can Modi do? That message has gone to the ground very clearly that Modi is not at fault. The person he has appointed at the local level, that person is not performing properly. So Modi is not at fault. The local MP is at fault, and he has successfully, in my experience at least, he has successfully managed to separate himself from the failures of his government.
And again trying to draw attention to himself कि मैं राम को लाया हूँ.
If a bus stand or a platform has to be inaugurated, it has to be Modi. If on the certificate, COVID certificate, there has to be a photograph, it has to be Modi. Everything is Modi. A temple inauguration in India or abroad, it has to be Modi. So now Modi has created a situation in which he cannot isolate himself. So if he is trying to isolate himself now from failure, that is not allowed.
No, I think the same strategy, the BJP, by making Modi a central figure, reaped a lot of political benefits, but the same strategy has come back to haunt it right now. So, because they have nothing else to say apart from Modi.
Since you're talking about this polarization and also the fact that the campaign has become quite polarized since the second phase, after the conclusion of the second phase, we have seen that the Calcutta High Court has cancelled all OBC certificates issued by the West Bengal government after 2010. Now, remember the TMC government first came to power in 2011, and this ruling directly impacts certificates issued by the TMC government since 2011. Now, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has said that she will approach the Supreme Court against this order. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is also campaigning in the state, two phases are still yet to poll in West Bengal, crucial two phases with many important seats over there. Modi has said that has called the ruling a slap on the India Alliance's face and accused the TMC government of giving Muslim OBCs certificates for its vote bank. So, Ajay, how do you see this impacting these two phases which are yet to poll in West Bengal, and the BJP obviously trying to encash on this? Yesterday we have seen protests also. This has become a highly polarized matter with just two phases left to go.
Yeah, so the constituencies which remain in which are yet to go to polls in West Bengal are traditional Trinamool Congress strongholds. In 2019, many of these constituencies, especially Bankura or in many of these, or those bordering Bangladesh, were kind of wrested by the BJP from the TMC. And this time BJP is making a lot, this OBCs, along all the 7 phases, there have been many court orders, some of which has favored the TMC and many of which have gone with the BJP in terms of politics. The court orders are separate, but both these parties have tried to use or interpret these court orders in their favor or kind of defend again. This time against this OBC cancellation, Mamata Banerjee has kind of said that she disapproves of this order and she'll appeal at higher courts. So these are things, and BJP exactly has what it has used, that since these new OBC certificates since 2011 has included a lot of backward Muslims, so they have tried to kind of communalize the whole OBC certification issue and have been kind of campaigning that this is an indirect way to include Muslims within the OBC list, a kind of national narrative that the Prime Minister Modi has also spoken about in all his speeches. So, so for me, there's a kind of it's a turning point in Bengal elections right now, because after the 2022 kind of comprehensive loss, the BJP had kind of tried to course correct and had moved away from polarizing. They understood that with almost 30% population in West Bengal, it's very difficult for them to win an election with just 70% of the votes. The proportion of Muslims in Bengal is higher than many of these North Indian states, where they could still consolidate 80-85% of the Hindus against the Muslims. But in Bengal, it's really difficult. So what has happened? So they tried to kind of course correct and kind of concentrated their campaign on Trinamool's alleged corruption and alleged gundagardi, hooliganism, and focused on this. But now that this also kind of shows BJP's insecurity, that now when two phases are left, they are blatantly trying to communalize Hindus against Muslims. Because and Mamata Banerjee has also, like, by talking about the Ramakrishna ashrams monks or ISKCON monks, some of these monks who are, and kind of attacking some of these monks within these institutions as helping the BJP. So she has also kind of tried to attract liberal Hindus to kind of and create a secular vote bank of Muslims and liberal Hindus. The BJP has no other option but to communalize the issues as strongly as possible in the last two phases. So it will pick up these OBC reservations, link development initiatives of Trinamool Congress with its own communal interpretation of those things, and it will and so the court orders do not have a direct kind of impact on what the political equations are, but how these political parties take up these issues, address these issues, will have some kind of impact.
But interestingly, the court in its order has said that the court's mind is not free from doubt that the said community has been treated as a commodity for political ends. So about 5 lakh people have been affected by this. Of course, it is not going to affect them, those people who have already availed these benefits, but if they subsequently go to apply for government jobs, they will not be able to do so. So the sense that comes is that these OBC certificates were handed out primarily because they were Muslims without following adequate legal procedures. So how do you see this, Sanjay, playing out in the election?
See, for me, the larger concern is that unfortunately in India today, even judiciary has become a raw material for political warfare. This is very unfortunate. Judiciary itself is responsible. Some of the judgments, certain behavior of certain judges, they all have contributed to this kind of thing. We have seen in Calcutta only, one judge says that I was always RSS, now I am going to go back to RSS. One judge resigns and becomes a candidate. So what we are seeing is a farce. But it is not in the fitness of things that everything should be seen through secular communal prism. Mamata Banerjee says this is a BJP verdict. I think this is not called for. Okay. Mamata Banerjee should not have talked about it. Narendra Modi says whenever he sees a Muslim angle, Muslim support kiya, vote bank support kiya, this is not prime ministerial. Muslims are not aliens. There are poor people among Muslims. If they get government benefit, if they get reservation, why the one political party creates such a hangama? On fundamental things, there should be a national consensus among political parties. Everybody who is poor, whether he is Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, everybody should get help. Judiciary should also look within, political parties should also look within and formulate a code, a written code or unwritten code, so that we do not come out as a country of uncouth people, country of hateful people. Whatever we have seen in this election has given a very, very bad image to the entire country, which is the larger concern today.
Before we wrap up, since we are talking about the impression that has come out of these elections, 5 phases are already done, 2 more phases are left, and in the remaining 2 phases, we will see about 58 seats going to the polls in the 6th phase, which is on 25th May, and another 57 seats going to the polls in the last phase, which is the 7th phase. So around 400 seats of the 543 seats have already finished polling. So Ajoy, how do you see? What are your takeaways? The fact that the BJP initially started off this campaign with its call of 400 par, now that 5 phases are over, 400 seats have finished polling. What are the big takeaways for you?
Takeaways are number one, that before the election started, it was made out to be by a large section of media that this is a one-sided affair, and there's nothing that can prevent another third term for Mr. Modi, which was clearly not the case. And every successive phase, we saw that more and more people are talking about the brooding resentment on the ground on a range of issues. Those issues can change, but so it is a reflection of the fact that all these hoopla about Modi's big talk about economic growth hasn't kind of translated on the ground, and the growing inequality that many of us were talking about for the last 10 years are actually showing, and the frustration against such growing inequality is showing it. And this is and I feel that the opposition could get its act together in all the 5 phases, and are fighting really, and all their leaders are kind of fighting really well, and have managed to kind of take their message deep in the electorate, and and that required a kind of effort, an unprecedented effort by the opposition, because they have not been getting any kind of level playing field, at least for a range of issues. The media has not been showing them. The 2 of their chief ministers of the India bloc had been arrested. The Congress's accounts were frozen, and despite that it was the people's support which has kind of pulled them together, and they are fighting well right now. The last 2 election phases, I think, are going to be the most difficult phases, at least in 3 states, Jharkhand, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, for the BJP, because these have been traditionally very, very tightly fought elections, where even in a situation of wave for one particular party, no one has kind of come out like really in shining colors in these, in say Purvanchal, but say leave aside Varanasi, but other constituencies around it. Leave aside, the last phase will have many of the South Bihar constituencies go. The Jharkhand will have, say, all the Adivasi populated. Adivasis are hugely resentful of Mr. Modi, and the South Bihar also, you have a strong opposition alliance there, which is challenging the NDA there quite fantastically there. And in Purvanchal, which is Uttar Pradesh, I have seen that there's a lot of caste level churning happening. Many caste community blocs which had voted for the BJP in 2014 and 2019 are now all turning against them because of certain clever tactics adopted by the India alliance. So this is true, and the thing is, how do we go about it? On June 4th, it will be clear. For me, the bigger question is that, yes, a lot of people are going against BJP, but no one can actually scientifically predict the level of swing against the BJP. The opposition certainly needs to kind of get a lot more votes than it used to get, increase its vote share above 40%. Whether that will happen or not, we'll know on June 4th. But right now, the ground kind of looks like really a tightly contested one.
Sanjay, I don't want to get into the projections that have been coming in. Some people are saying that BJP will not cross 272. Some people are saying that they will cross 303, better its tally of 2019, which was 303. But without going into the numbers and projections, what are your takeaways with 5 phases done?
See, this 400 plus thing was for psychological conditioning. The Prime Minister, all the rulers do it. They do not want people to discuss their own issues. their own concerns, the basic core concerns of the people. No government wants to discuss that, to get into that groove. So the Prime Minister floated this balloon of 400. That's a nonsense thing. We as a journalist, that is not our concern also. Unfortunately, the media started saying 400 par, 400 par, 400 par. Every headline you see on television, 400 par. That is not our concern. Our concern is constitutionalism. Our concern is justice. Our concern is poverty. Our concern is people's aspirations. Whether the BJP wins or not, whether Narendra Modi becomes Prime Minister for the third term or not, that is not my concern. My concern is that the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, has defeated himself. How? Defeated himself by not behaving like a Prime Minister, by using the language he has done. Dirty language, unconstitutional language, Mangal Sutra chhin lenge, bhains le le jaka, creating imaginary threats. This is, Prime Minister has disqualified himself. My concern is that the next election we should see a healthy competition, a better language. Whoever wins, they should follow constitution, they should work for the people. We are not aligned to any political party. We are not concerned about victory, defeat, revenge, power. All these things are for the political parties. Our concern is justice and constitution, humanitarian concerns and the welfare of the people. Our concern is not power. So good luck to BJP if they win 400 plus.
No, but I'm kind of sure that irrespective of the number of seats these parties win, the BJP's vote share will take a big beating, at least in North India, where they had saturated
It is
themselves.
a very close contest.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll have to keep a close eye on all those developments. Just about a week to go for us to know what really has transpired in these elections, and you can follow all those developments on The Wire. Thank you so much for joining us, Sanjay and Ajoy, and thank you so much to our viewers for joining us on The Wire app once again.